From his last win in the UFC against BJ Penn nearly 12 years ago to the string of losses and a no contest, Nick Diaz has had a spectacular dip in his fortune and has a long way to go before he can make up for it, if that's even possible anymore. But according to Diablo, the time for that is now or never. It's been a long time coming for sure. Younger brother Nate has kept the family torch burning in his absence. To many, except his hardcore supporters though, Nick's fire had burned out way back in the day, after his fourth straight loss on September 2021 to Robbie Lawler by TKO. With Nate ending his 15-year career at UFC and entering free agency, it may be time for the elder brother to take matters into his own hands. And he's not settling for anyone less than Israel Adesanya. The public's verdict after UFC 286, though, was unanimous. It called it a lethal blow to his career. There seemed to be no way to go but down from here, since his 26 wins in pro MMA were dangerously close to balancing out his losses at 12 after his latest fight. Though that might be an overstatement, the jiu-jitsu black belt certainly looked past his prime, but not past his pride. That's sad but not unusual. In every generation of MMA contenders, there are many who just don't know when to call it quits. It's also what made him so exciting at his peak. The unpredictable yet exciting streak now promises to continue, with Diaz's insistence on returning to the UFC. At 39 years old, the title shot he hopes for is just as unrealistic as some of his crazy finishes in the octagon. All of them were pretty insane, as even his last 4 winless fights showed him refusing to tap out. In all 4, he went 5 rounds too, though he got TKO'd by Silva in 3 rounds. So the grit is there, and the will is there too, but is the hunger there?
Is exactly what they're doing. A jab from Nunes, right hand, Diaz targeting the body. What a tremendous fight for the Strikeforce Welterweight Championship.
With Diaz, it's always been all or nothing. So the fact that he's been giving his all to losing instead of winning isn't making things any easier. It's no longer exciting when you keep getting out. In Diaz's case, no matter how hard he punches or full of heart he is, this one thing may be his biggest criticism in Dana's eyes. He just doesn't sell that well anymore. While retiring and coming back to another division or another promotion is fairly common in MMA, turning free agent and raising the occasional eyebrows isn't the greatest deal when it comes to promoting fights. As a result, the semi-retired status of Nick Diaz has done the opposite of keeping fans on the edge. It's made them indifferent to his comeback. Worse still, audiences appear to now even be actively hostile to the whole idea. When he came out of a hiatus in 2021, that's when I'd say he still had some traction behind it. Fans were as excited as they'd ever be to see their favorite fighter get back to fight after 6 years. There was suspense and an aura of mystery about the outcome. The actual match turned out to be a watershed moment for the fans though. I imagine many took it as a time to face up to the truth and hope for their own sake that the current middleweight would stop. It was clear that the 6 years of professional inactivity between his last 2 matches had made matters worse. This realization showed clearer against Lawler than in any of his other recent fights. This was the first time since losing to KJ Nunes in Elite XC that Nick got a stoppage loss due to TKO in under 3 rounds. But his latest defeat was different. Things would be very different after it with respect to the Stockton Brawler's career prospects too. Nailing the lid shut on any rumors of his comeback, the UFC's president said in a public broadcast about 3 months later, it did leave one tiny opening though. Given Diaz could get his act back together, he could fight again. But according to Dana, just because you could doesn't mean you should. With his last win dating to 2011, the former bare-knuckle boxer is fast entering history, just not in the form of a historic championship win for him. Instead, Nick's squandering his legacy in a historic comeback of epic proportions as the fighter with the longest losing streak. Well, you might say he's only lost 4 times. True, but he's fought only 4 times too. That makes it 4 for 4 against Nick. Not getting a single win over any of his competition during this dry spell has put a hopeless cloud over his career. It's hard enough for it to improve his current record. It's also very easy to crash it further into the ground. That's never seemed to bother Diaz though, who was suspended for 5 years after testing positive for marijuana. Call it whatever, but curiously, this was Nick's 3rd failed test in his career. The guy was grilled as someone who just wouldn't learn from his mistakes.
The reason why I became a fighter, on top of, a handful of reasons, was so that I, don't have to break the law. They don't have to break the law either.
I find this a curious case of Diaz, who may be too stubborn and confident for his own good. It's landed him both stunning wins and exciting losses. Now, at 39 years old, the volume striker may be punching a hole in his own career. Whatever's on his mind, the promotion itself has lost confidence in him. Dana put it this way, sympathizing with Diablo for forcing himself to carry on. I think Nick does it because he has to do it. Whether or not this opinion is true, it certainly holds the greatest weight for Diaz's future fight, as it's the president saying it. It doesn't help that Nick's hit list keeps changing. He'd earlier indicated he wanted to fight former welterweight champ Kamaru Usman. In reality, though, Dana proved he was calling the shots, confirming a fight between Leon and Kamaru to be held later. So that's exactly how it went. After the Nigerian Nightmare lost the belt, I guess he didn't make the cut anymore for Diablo. The California boy has since set his sights on another trilogy duo and legendary rivals. As he said, "I always want to fight the best." According to this statement made in his interview for UFC 285, only the titled champ and nothing less for Mr. Diaz. The 39-year-old seems to want them to fight it out between themselves. The winner's the totally unofficial and absolutely insane Craze, a chance to fight Nick. This offer wasn't available for Jones though, as the OG Diaz clarified he's not coming at John Jones or anything. I don't know if Bones counted his lucky stars there or heaved a sigh of relief, but Diaz knows what he wants, and if he gets it decisively, could he get his career back on his pre-Carlos Condit primetime? But win or lose, Nick will always get the love. He's so good at what he does, but he's even better when he's on a motivational high. So I hate to say this, but the numbers don't match up, starting with the fact that Diaz is growing old. I know it hurts to admit it, as he's been a fighter all of his life. The efforts he must have put in for his UFC 266 return against Ruthless only made his loss worse. You don't want a guy who's approaching 40 to hurt himself, living up to his own expectations and his past performances. Nick doesn't need to prove anything though, because his 2004 match with Lawler showed just how epic Nick was in his prime.
Here comes the right hook, bang, in the exchange. It's wild punches, hands down, bang, right on the button.
It was a one-punch knockout and power-packed entertainment for 2 straight rounds. To be fair, Nick will probably not give up. After all, isn't that what endeared so many to him in the first place, and continues to appreciate his willpower, even if the decision itself received concern, condemnation, and allegations of clout chasing. When one fan said he continues to live off his hype, I really did feel it. Diaz had the hype and the heart. He could retire and keep it, or seriously hurt both by stepping into a cage with the last stylebender. If he does manage to bag this fight though, it may be more legendary than the match itself, as that's some real convincing power.